Hello, everybody. I want to apologize for my voice. I have a little cold. Growing up, my mom was a pediatrician, and she always told us that the third week of school is when the sicknesses hit. And it just been slowly going through my family. But anyway, I try not to record when I'm sick because I notice little things in people's voices that annoy me sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts. So if that is you, I apologize. Also, if you want a learning opportunity from me and a bunch of other photographers, you can join this Profit Mastery, kind of like a big group of photographers that came together on a lot of different topics. My class in that is creating demand instead of chasing it in an uncertain economy. That's my class name. And my freebie, within that course, there's a way to upgrade, and then you get every photographer puts a bonus in of certain things. And mine is 1 month free of my membership. So if you want to learn and then you want to upgrade, you get that. And then there's I think it's $4,000 or $5,000 worth of upgrades from other photographers. So obviously, if you're listening to this in the future, that may not be applicable. But if you're listening now and you want to check it out, I'll put the link in the show notes. Okay, so this podcast is the psychology of booking, this podcast episode, the psychology of booking, why families say yes. So you may not know this about me, but I was a psych major in college. I probably should not have gone to college. I was a weirdo. So I met my husband when I was 16. By that time, like a couple months into a relationship, we started taking care of this semi-abandoned puppy. And we shared custody of her. And by the time I was 18, we for sure knew that we were getting married or going to get married. And we kind of had our life planned out. So college for me was a place where I learned things, but I wasn't a traditional student I was a commuter student, and I, overloaded every quarter so I could graduate early. I think I graduated at 20. So all that to say, what I did take away from college was the fact that my major was very well suited for me, psychology, because I love people. Actually, at my last senior shoot, I did senior photos for this boy, and he's a senior here. He's a senior. That's what I meant to say. He's a sailor. He's a sailor on my island, which is a common pastime, surrounded by water. Sometimes people like to sail through it. So his mom had said, well, why don't you just come to the dock and, we can take some photos around the boat. And I was like, let's get on the boat. So we waited till pretty light time, and the whole family plus Fiona went on the sailboat, and their dynamic was so funny. Every family's dynamic I love. Even if people are having a bad day, even if there's tension, I love to witness humans interacting. That's what I love about my job and why I chose psychology as a major. I had originally wanted to be a school psychologist until I realized that job isn't what I thought it was going to be, which what I wanted to do was help juniors and seniors plan for their future, but that's a very, very small percentage of that job. So anyway, psychology has remained a huge interest of mine. And when it comes to this work, it's doubly important. Not only do I honestly and truly think that you need to be genuinely curious about human connection to be a good photographer, I think that psychology also plays a major component in the successful marketing of said business. Because in order to successfully market, you have to place yourself in the position of others. And psychology really helps you do that, because then you can think, what might they be thinking and why do they make these decisions? And so that's kind of why I wanted to frame this episode this way. So sometimes when we think about marketing, we think about it too logically. And that logic can break down to sound like this. Well, no one saw my reel because of the algorithm. And it's logic. And so then you're like, okay, it's me against a giant algorithm. There's nothing that I can do. So I just have to keep trying to put myself out there in this certain way, while not thinking about how your brand makes people feel. And how your brand makes people feel is completely overlooked in the marketing world, as far as I can tell, for most photographers. They're instead competing with other photographers, worried about price and chasing trends. The consumer or the client, how they feel and what is behind those decisions that make them go from discovery to booking is the key to all of it and completely overlooked. So there are 4 main emotions that are sort of the pillars of influence in decision making when it comes to a family booking with you or not booking with you. I feel a sneeze inside my nose. It's like traveling down at a glacial pace. So if it comes, I apologize. I'll move the mic away, but I have moved away from editing this podcast at all. I become completely feral. You may notice there's no more intro music and there's no more outro music and there's no more intro because it was taking too much time. So what I say is what you get in this scenario. It also really helps with my transparency. I always want to be very transparent. I don't want you to feel like you're listening to something that's overly edited. So I apologize if a sneeze comes, those tickly ones, he's in there. Okay, so urgency, ease, trust, and emotion. So those are really helpful, really helpful. Each individual one you can build marketing around, right? So a family that booked you because of how they felt experiencing your brand is a lot easier way to market than thinking about, well, it was too expensive or it wasn't too expensive, which I think sometimes we can break it down to just that base level. And yes, that plays a part in it. I'm also not interested in chasing someone around because of price. I've come out publicly before and said, stop talking about the cost of your business. Stop complaining about how much it costs to run your business. Nobody cares. And the only shares on those types of posts are from other photographers who are trying to justify their price. You don't need to justify your price. You could have a session that's $10,000 and you could have a session that's $2. It literally doesn't matter. Both of those people are going to have to find the right client. And just because you're $2 doesn't mean that you're going to be successful, because there's going to be a whole cohort of people, or a cohort of people who are going to be like, whoa, trust is broken because your price is too low. Just as though there's going to be people who said, I can't justify a price that high. So we need to move off of this island of price when it comes to how we see our businesses. And I feel like a lot of people are lying to themselves when they don't take accountability that is a huge piece in how they think of themselves. So first one we're going to talk about is urgency. So families are busy. If your target market is families, they're busy, they have a lot going on. We have to try to account for that. There's overwhelm, there's indecision. There's all kinds of things that are going on in a family, right? So it's not our job to go in and say like, you don't prioritize family photos because you're so busy. There shouldn't be any sort of shameful marketing, but we can step into the role of the educator to show that delaying booking, like fall is a perfect example, delaying booking, what that gets you is limited choice in sessions. For me, as a golden hour photographer in Seattle, what it gets you is if it's end of October and it's cloudy, we can reschedule. Everything pretty is going to blow off the trees and we're going to be standing in a wet garbage pile. So you lose your flexibility. You lose your flexibility when you push it to the end. That's my job to tell clients. They don't know that. I said to my client the other night, because I'm always looking at the sun and the clouds, and I've gotten pretty good at reading Pacific Northwest weather. I have my little tricks, and it's literally the hardest place to predict weather, one of the hardest places in the world to predict weather, because we have the ocean and we have the mountains, and it's just almost impossible to predict until about the day before. So I spend a lot of times having conversations about weather, and there are people who are heavily emotionally invested into the way that light looks in my photos. These are not artists, these are families, and they recognize that one of the reasons that they're drawn to my brand is light. So it's my job in the pillar of urgency to help them understand that if they wait till the last minute, all of my reschedule flexibility to chase that good light goes away. So it's not their job to know that. They're experiencing my brand, and I need to be the guide to help them through the urgency pillar to understand why it makes sense. You could think about it through the lens of spring and the flowers going away, summer and the smoke here in Pacific Northwest. That would be a good one. Fall and the rain, winter and the snow, right? All of these changes give us a natural built-in urgency to booking if we think about our business as marketing seasons, which is the way I like to think about it, unless you live somewhere else like Arizona or those places where you'll have the same urgency but just in different time zones or different times of the year. So they also might need to understand things like how long it's going to take you to get the gallery back. How do you communicate the urgency without that pressure, right? What you can do is just talk about, again, I talked about this in the last 5 episodes because it's been so clarifying for me, the excitement around you as the artist wanting to help facilitate their dream. If you have no time, you have no time to make it beautiful for them. That's your way to communicate without saying, well, if you wait till the end of August, that's not what we're going for. It's like you waited, you lost is not the vibe. It's I'm so excited to help you get this thing that you want. And here's how I'm the facilitator of that getting of the thing, right? It's excitement. It's expertness. That's what's coming through. Okay. The second one is friction. So this is one of my things. The complication of booking is so complicated for so many of you. And you have added friction because you want to qualify clients through the booking process instead of qualifying clients before they even book with you. And that's what I want you to focus on. Think about, you're not trying to, if you're in a little store and you're about to buy something, you don't have the salesperson hand you the item and try to sell it to you at the counter. You walk around the store. There's all sorts of little details in there, the smell, the light, the kindness of the salesperson, the beautiful other clothes, things coming together that excite you as the buyer. You're not coming in the door, walking to the front and the person saying, here's a shirt, let me tell you why it's great. And then babbling on to you for 10 minutes. That's what I feel like a lot of your guys' booking process looks like, because somewhere along the line you were told, or you feel like the pathway to happy clients is pre-qualifying them. And I understand that. And I might get a DM or two from people who are like, I do IPS, I have a complicated thing, I only want to book people like this. I understand all of that. So again, that goes along the line of, even if you're IPS, your booking process is probably too complicated. You need to overly explain it. If you have a very specific type of family that you're trying to photograph, all of that qualifying can be done pre-booking. So let's give an example for that. So one of the things I've seen trending is you meet the family and they're running through the sprinklers and they're in their garden and they have a very aesthetic house. Whether or not people want to admit that that's what they're chasing, that's what they're chasing. And so if I want one of those sessions, but I live in an apartment, then you may want to qualify me out, right? You might want to say what I want as the artist is this. Well, you can qualify me out if you don't want to do work inside an apartment. I'm going really random with this example by saying exactly the elements of what the session is and who it's a fit for. Obviously, you do not want to be discriminatory. You do not want to be, I think it's a dangerous thing when I look through a photographer who chases trends and every single family that they photograph looks like a supermodel family. That is your business to do it that way. And the warning I'm saying is the qualifying that you may be doing is that people may not feel good enough for your brand. So you have to be careful about your qualifying. Words I use are snuggly, playful, adventurous, right? So I'm not saying you need to be aesthetically X, Y, and Z in order to book with me. But I do feel like that messes with people's heads and they feel like, oh, I showed up to a session and the situation around the session wasn't ideal. And so what I'm going to try to do is qualify people by having them fill out a really complicated booking form, when instead you can draw people into the process and people can naturally disqualify themselves if they're realizing that what you're offering doesn't fit within their world. No matter what the session type is. For me, if I was going to photograph a senior, is a perfect example because I moved into that realm. I had a mom reach out and she said she wanted, and she sent me a picture, and it was the kid on the football field with off-camera flash and the stadium lights were in the background and he was kicking a football. And I was like, ma'am, I'm not the one. I don't even know where to start with that. I don't even know the rules of football. I've actually never watched a football game in my life. I have no idea. I wouldn't be able, I don't know anyone that works at the stadium. I don't know how to turn the lights on, and I don't own a flash. So had that person not been, of course, that was a sideways referral that came in from someone else. Had that person gone on my website and seen that instead it's like warm, organic, flowy senior photos, mostly girls, but the boys are like doing an activity that's outdoors, natural light, adventurous, playful, she would have been like, oh, this is not fitting, right? So that's just an example. You need to tell people exactly what to expect, and you need to tell people exactly what you're booking, and you need to explain to people exactly what your process is. A streamlined booking process feels like magic compared to a clunky one. Okay, the third one is building confidence before they even reach out or book. So families need to trust both you and your work. Both of those things are really important. And the photographers who put themselves out there constantly, like as talking to camera or showcasing their lives, they already, whether or not you want to admit it or not, those photographers have checked this box. Not only because they're going to attract people that like their vibe, they're going to turn off people without having to email these people back and forth who don't like their vibe. So remember, marketing is attracting as much as deflecting, right? You are not the one. We don't have the same vibe. Attracting, ooh, I like her. She seems fun. She seems funny. I need someone to photo. I feel like as a mom, I needed someone who is funny and open and playful to photograph my family. She seems this way. That's a check in the box for the trust for you. Okay, so you need these trust builders: consistent imagery, client reviews, behind the scenes, clear communication. Go through your website through that lens. Do you have consistent imagery? If you don't, if you are new, that is okay. Just keep working until you can produce consistent galleries, and know that until you reach that place, you will have a problem with trust, and that is okay and expected in the beginning. And the reason it bothers you goes back to that Ezra Klein quote. It's because your taste is good. If your taste was crap, you wouldn't care that your photos are inconsistent. You care because you want it to look good. The answer to your problem is in the future when you've worked harder. That's just the bottom line. When you've shot more, when you've honed in your editing, when you've figured out your process, when you know what you like as an artist, all of those pieces will come into place. And what will happen is you will start to fall in love with your own work. It's a beautiful thing. Most photographers quit before they reach that like cliff. They just fall off the cliff, hate their work. It's done. I'm going to do something different. If you can work through the mundane annoyingness of having taste that does not match your work, and then reaching the place where your taste and your work match, that's the beauty of being an artist. Will you stay there forever? No. You're going to find something else you want to be better at, and the journey continues inch by inch upward the mountain. But you don't want to quit before you even have that inkling of being like, ooh, I like what I made here. Okay, so client reviews. It's very important. We all look for that social proof of being like, think about the last thing you booked, an Airbnb. I'm trying to think, like a doctor, a service provider. Everybody's looking at the reviews. They don't have to be just Google reviews. You can copy and paste emails that you've gotten from clients' text, and you can put them on there. That's so helpful. Behind the scenes stories, or getting to know you as the artist, it's important. People want to see who is going to be meeting their family and spending time with them. That's a no-brainer. We can show up and showcase who we are, how we work, what we like. If you struggle in that area, like I've said before, pick 2 or 3 things that you want to chat about, whether it be sourdough, coffee, books, your dog, cleaning your house, exploring your town. There's so many areas that you just say, once a week, I'm going to show up consistently in this way to let people into who I am. This is a personal business, whether or not we want to admit it or not. Do the introverts out there wish that it wasn't so? Probably, but you are going to be meeting these people and spending an hour with them. So let them see a little bit about you before that happens. Clear communication. Clear communication is, Is your pricing clear? What are your prep guides like? Like, how are you going to help me style? How do we choose the location? What's your weather policy? How do you handle X, Y, and Z? All of that can be communicated in a building confidence sort of way before they even click the booking button. For the majority of people, they are not saying enough about the little tiny details that go into a session on that. All of that is gate kept behind the booking process. This is what I see most commonly. Your website is fairly generic. You have images, but not a lot of, they're like they feel curated. So I'm struggling trust-wise to see, like, does she produce a consistent gallery? So I'm not sure if you do and you don't have online booking. So I reach out to you. We have a conversation back and forth. We establish that I am in fact going to photograph you and you are going to be photographed by me. And then I open the gates to how I'm going to help you. Bring all that stuff out from behind the gates. Really show people how you're going to help them. Okay, connecting to why a family books, right? Why are they doing this? So there's the cohort of people who book because they want a holiday card. We all know them. They come every year. If you have a business set up to entertain them, great. If you have your business set up where you don't want those people, those are going to be very, very personal decisions for every business. Then there's going to be people who literally just want to freeze this time with their family. There's also this very nice built-in expectation of getting family photos every year. It's a societal expectation for a lot of families. So, like, I had a client the other day and she was like, yeah, we do this every year and it's really stressful. And this is a holiday card person, by the way. It's really stressful and I, nobody likes to get dressed and I'm going to cough. And we come out here, but then we like the result, right? We like the result. And this family always gets a half session. It's very posed. They're just sort of in the fold. I'm aware they're in the holiday card fold. They're aware they're in the holiday card fold. That family feels night and day different to a family who hires me for the experience. I have a brand set up to cater to both of them. But of course, the session I love the most as the artist is the one who is emotionally excited about adventuring in beautiful places with me, not the person who's dragging her family to the park in outfits that she chose because she wants a Christmas card. I could choose as the family photographer to completely discard the holiday card family just because artistically they aren't my favorite, but I have decided along the line of creating an income and all of those decisions that we all have to make that I can accommodate those families at this time of year because I have put so much energy and effort into building out an adventurous, snuggly, no mention of holiday card, spring and summer. So that fills my artist cup. And then these people that are doing the holiday cards, many of these families are wonderful. And I'm not saying there's many of them that choose me because of my adventurous, playful spirit. And those are the images that end up on the holiday cards. I'm just trying to explain how your business can serve both people, but it's up to you whether or not you want to do that. And so part of the way that you can either draw in more people or repel other types of people is by looking at their motivation. If I had built a brand right now, if you went to my website and my Instagram, and everything that I had on my website and my Instagram was preparing you for holiday cards, I will say that this is hardly done, and I think it would be a huge asset. It would be like, here's my favorite designs. Here's how I can help you. These are the types of poses that we do. I'm really excited to help you get this and looking good. Hardly anyone goes that route, but you would be very successful if you did because you're facilitating the needs of the person who's trying to get the very specific thing. So that is one way to think about it. Like if you were a person who wanted to make the bulk of your income with holiday card people, you could literally have a holiday card business. You could have a holiday card business that started in spring and your whole thing is holiday cards. You can choose whatever route you want. And the motivation that will determine whether or not people book with you is you deciding what feeling of the potential client you're catering to. So for me, it's not necessarily that. It's people who want to explore the state. This is my favorite type of person. They want to explore the beautiful state in better than average clothes in a playful way. Like that is my person. I love that person. I feel most artistically aligned to that person, right? So what are those people feeling? The people that I want to book with. I have to talk to those emotions. I have to talk to those reasons. Why are you booking? What are you looking for? What draws you to my brand? And when I've done that well, then the booking process is flawless. When I have people writing in and they're saying, ooh, I saw this and I wasn't sure. Most often, if someone's writing into me like that, I will not spend a very long time trying to convince them that I am something that's not representative on my website, because my website is so comprehensive, if that makes sense. So this would be write captions, blogs, and emails that speak to memory, belonging, family identity, reason for the session, right? What you can speak to those things when you talk, and that will help clarify your brand. The role of your visual storytelling and how it ties into their motivation is the through line from discovery, building trust to booking. Emotion, whether it's you're a very emotive photographer, you're a very playful photographer, or you're a very streamlined pose photographer, that's the thread that ties your marketing together. So you can have your 3 words that you want someone to describe your brand. If it's posed, professional, crisp, you can picture that in your head, what I just said, as opposed to warm, organic, and playful. So see how those emotions lead us to different visualizations in our head? We can already start brand building around those 3 words. So what are your 3 words? And what does your brand look like? But most importantly, what does your brand feel like to a potential client? So I'm going to tell a story about how this recently helped me building my brand this way. So I photographed another photographer at one of my favorite locations, and she shared the images, which is great because we know, I feel like post 2020, we all sort of, a big marketing for us was clients posting their own images on Instagram and tagging us. That does not happen as often. Does it happen every once in a while? Yes. But I feel like as someone who photographs a lot of people, that does not happen that often. I also do not tag and share on my Instagram for client privacy. So I'm not like tagging clients in stories, which might cause them to then share their stories. And so that could be happening if your brand has a different take on privacy. I do it that way because I want to continue to showcase client images. And so I have certain protocols within my business so that nobody can Google a client's name and have an image of mine pop up. So that's just a side note. But I'm talking about this avenue of marketing, which has kind of gone away as families have posted less on Instagram and used social media in different ways. This photographer shared her images. She knows a ton of people. I had a few half sessions at the same location that I did hers, and I had 2 people from that post follow me and within the same day booked out my half sessions. So what's happening there is trust is extremely high throughout the process, right? They went on, they saw her images. They said, as potential clients, ooh, I want something like that. Came to my Instagram, saw consistent imagery, went to my website, found those images, found that look. They never reached out to me. What location is this? How do I book it? None of those questions were answered. They found the half sessions. They paid their booking fee. They signed their contract, and I got that within 2 hours. Bam, 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 3 bookings. So that's how I know my process is working. I'm also not trying to qualify those people. I'm not trying to say, are you playful enough? Are you snuggly enough? Are you warm enough? Because I've done so much pre-qualifying throughout my process. They even have to sign or like check the freaking box that says you can't show up grumpy. So if somebody has a grumpy ass husband and they just want to get a photo and go back to the car, they're not going to, that right there is going to stop them from booking with me, which is exactly what I want. Right? So that is just a real life example. And you're not able, it's very rare to see the through line of a booking that way. And this was just an example where I could see the names come through because I saw who followed me and I saw who booked. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's so validating for me as a marketer and a person who's trying to invite people into my brand in a really helpful, clear way. And these are half sessions where these families now in like a week are driving 3 hours for a 20-minute session. So this is not something that is not complicated. It's still complicated, but the trust was high. So whenever people try to say, oh, well, I have too much to explain, there's too many moving parts, it's overly complicated, I always just look to my own sessions. And I think, what is much more complicated than dressing for mountain weather 3 hours away from your house? Like, is there more complication within a family shoot than majority of people that are meeting people at the park down the street, which you could still prepare those families, excite them, bring them into the process just as much, even if it's not a complicated session. Okay, so I hope that gives you some things to think about within the psychology of booking and why families say yes or no to things. And, you can always also ask people as you're after the session or whatever. You could say, hey, I'm doing some market research and I'd love for you to tell me why you booked with me. That is perfectly acceptable. And they could say, oh, that's such a great insight. Oh, I really loved this, or I really loved that, or I really loved whatever. And then you can just double down on those. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with a Mary Oliver quote. Oh, let's get a little sappy. So it says, the most regretful people on earth are those who felt the call to creative work, who felt their own creative power restive and uprising and gave it neither power or time. So I think this is really important because I feel like a lot of you guys, you wondrous family photographers out there, are sort of bursting with untapped potential. And the way that you can tap your potential is by being better, clear communicators. All right. I hope you guys have a good week.